Welcome to Rapid Reviews Radio Podcast episode 228. Oh my goodness. And thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening. I was trying to do a DJ voice and then I forgot what day of the week it was. So we'll go back to drunk Kiley voice. I am co-host Kiley Wilde. I bet that woke you up. And I'm joined by my ever-present co-host Pete Beckett.
Hello to all those out there in internet land.
Pete got the memo. And this is our show. But yes, we are your co-hosts for tonight's episode, as we are every week. And every week, I like to start the show by asking our guest how they are and what they've been doing this week. But we don't have any guests, so that means I have to ask Pete. Pete,
oh, big shame.
How are you and how has your week been and what have you been playing? Say it's a musical number.
I'm not going with musical number. Sorry, I didn't get that memo. That will never happen on here. Yeah, my week's been good. It's been rather busy, but very entertaining at least. Yeah, games-wise, I got a lot to talk about this week. Got a lot I need to discuss this week in terms of games. So, where should I start? I'm going to start with Batman Arkham Knight.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because this will be the final time that I ever talk about Batman Arkham Knight.
Doubt that.
No, because I finished Arkham Knight.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it again, I'm sure, in the future.
No, I meant in terms of the what you've been playing section.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No, that is true.
So I have my final thoughts on Arkham Knight as a game. Just to let you know, I clocked it in at about 20 hours.
Okay.
And I didn't do much of the side content. And full disclosure, I did not 100% it. I did watch the true ending on YouTube because I looked at the requirements for it and I went, sod that, I'm not doing all of that.
Say, I ain't shamed. I do that too.
No, it's fine. You know, the Nightfall Protocol is absolutely fine. I like the ending of that, but anyway, so my final thoughts on Arkham Knight. It's a wonderful game. I really enjoyed it, gameplay-wise. I think the story is somewhat great as well. There are some moments in it I'm not particularly fond of. I'd already said that I knew about the Arkham Knight beforehand. I didn't particularly like the reveal of it. I thought it was incredibly obvious from the minute go. And I still don't like the fact that they changed a universally loved character into a completely new character when they already had a character as is anyway, if you know the Batman universe. Mm-hmm. And they could have just gone, well, why don't we just make this villain or this anti-hero?
Yes.
Instead of, oh, we're going to play it up for having a completely different character. It was kind of a bit dumb. I also think the story went on for a little bit too long. I think there is a little bit of bloat for about 2 hours.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
I think if it was a tight 15 hours, I would have been more than happy. I also didn't particularly like the fact that you didn't really have a boss fight with Scarecrow, actually.
Okay.
But I did really like the ending. The thing that lets the game down most of all is all the Joker stuff. I really didn't understand why it needed to be there. They should have left his story there at the end of Arkham City. I understand the principle behind it. It does lead some of the narrative, but I think it just gets a bit long in the tooth towards the end of the game.
Right.
But the final resolution of how that comes about, I actually really enjoyed that whole segment as a whole anyway. But yeah, it's a thoroughly decent game, and it's a very strong closer to the series. Look, I'm going to pretend that Arkham Shadows doesn't exist, because I don't play VR. So actually, when I sent the message to Kurt, the co-host of the Never Watchers, about this, because he's been curious about the playthrough as well, he said, what's your ordering? So I said, it's close. It's very close. There's not much in it between them, but it still goes Asylum, City, Night, Origins, and it's probably universal for everyone. But some say City is the best.
I was going to say, For me, City is the best, but
Yeah.
that's
I still
that's
think
like
for me, I still think Asylum is the best one, personally. They're all, like I said, the list is very, very close. There's not much in between
I
it.
do agree with that. Yes.
Asylum has the best atmosphere. City has the best story.
Okay.
Origins
Yes.
has the best boss fights and use of gadgets.
Oh,
And-
okay.
and-
I'll grant it that.
And Night has the best combat and stealth. Barring the
Okay, yes.
Batmobile.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Arkham Knight. I'm glad I finally played it, actually. And to be fair, it ran really well on PC, actually, considering all the problems it had when it first launched. They've managed to do some great things with that game, actually, to run really well on PC now. So, yeah, my Arkham quadrilogy playthrough is now finished. I can go on to other things, which is exactly what I did. So
and
this week,
what did you go on to, Pete?
I've gone on to two things, and one, but I will talk about Helldivers because I got a couple of games of Helldivers in with a friend.
Excellent.
Incredibly thoroughly enjoyable, except for when you go halfway through a suicide mission when you're low leveled. So I joined up with a friend who is a bit higher level than I am, straight in the middle of a suicide mission, which was a bad idea. But we did a few, and the group that I was in was actually really funny. We were all communicating via voice chat, and it was good fun. So, yeah, I still recommend Helldivers to anyone who likes a good online multiplayer third-person shooter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of these games is new, one of these is old, so I'm going to start with the old one first, but you're going to notice there's a little bit of a theme between the two of them, which is kind of stupid and a really bad mistake on my part. I started playing Sea of Thieves.
Okay, stupid microphone. That has crossed my mind because it's on sale on Steam, and then we'll talk about it later, but that has crossed my mind, yes.
I didn't buy it on Steam, it's on Game Pass, so I just downloaded it.
I'll talk about Game Pass later.
Okay.
But yeah, it did cross my mind.
So,
that way.
I honestly haven't played a lot of it. I've only played the tutorial mission because I just needed something to do after finishing Arkham Knight. I don't know how much of this I'm going to play, but I think this will be a game that I will pick up and play with a few friends. The same person I was playing Helldivers with also plays that as well, so they encouraged me to get it. So I'm going to jump on a few sessions with them in the future.
Sweet.
I do really like the aesthetic of the game. I like the mechanics of it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun when I play with people. But the tutorial mission doesn't really give a great representation of the game as a whole, because obviously being what they describe as a swag game, it's quite difficult to do when you're doing a single player tutorial.
I agree with that.
So, but yeah, check back in with this because I will be playing a bit more of it. But you're going to see why I made a big mistake. Because a game came out this week that has a very similar theme to it. I started playing Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
I thought about you, Pete, when I saw that. How have you enjoyed it? It looks great, I'm not going to lie.
So I played the first 2 hours of it. I was playing it this morning after being woken up early by the little ginger bastard. So
I can make a bad joke, but I won't.
I have to say I'm really thoroughly enjoying every single second of this. Actually, so I'll go into the details for those who actually don't really know about Pirate Yakuza. So it's a side story in the Like a Dragon or the Yakuza series, set around about the same time or just after the events of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Although they kind of touch on little elements of it that I know of so far. But this is a side story, much like it was with Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. But it takes its cues from that as well, that it is not a JRPG, it is a traditional action-adventure brawler game set on Hawaii, where you don't play as Kiryu, you play as Goro Majima, one of the note villains of previous Yakuza games, who has been washed up on a I say a deserted island, but a very small island in Hawaii with no memory of who he is. He gets picked up by a small child, where he then has to fight through a series of different pirates to gain access to a ship in the first chapter. So it is utterly bonkers. Of course it is, because it's Yakuza. The story has a lot of heart already, so far. Like I said, it's only 2 hours in. The most that I've done is I've gained the ship. I've learned the mechanics of how to actually play the game, the combat system, some of the other things that you're going to do in there, including planting and harvesting food and cooking, and for want of a better word, a pet simulator thing, which is gather pets from the island and you can give them food and they'll give you things. It's very weird.
Tamagotchi?
Basically,
Pirate
yes.
edition?
Thank
you.
I didn't realise at the time, I didn't know I wanted a game with Goro Majima until I started playing as Goro Majima. This is incredible. One of the things that they've added with the combat system is aerial combat. And not just aerial combat. They haven't shown me yet, but they've shown me something that's going to happen.
Pete, do you mean like a bunch of mermaids are fighting each other?
No, I mean the fact that he can... Aerial. No, this is above the sea, not under the sea. So I meant aerial in terms of, you can do air combos, which is...
Yes.
Why did they include this? This is stupid as hell. But it is incredible.
I want to play it.
Yeah, it is so much fun, honestly. It's a shorter game. It's a side story. They're generally shorter as
I like
anyway.
short things. Well, I do like short things.
Yeah, we do know that. But yeah, so I'll give you more thoughts as the time goes on, but so far really enjoying the playthrough of this. I just wish I could have had more time to play it this week, because I was trying to clear up other games. So I needed Batman off my plate before I started playing this. So yeah, that's been my week. Sorry I've ranted a bit, but yeah.
That's what this time is for. It's your time, Pete.
Well, now it's your time. What have you been playing this week, and how's your week been?
Well, my week has been insane because I thought when I put one of my businesses on hold, I would have a bunch of time to work on my stream and also stream. That is not true, because I'm a workaholic and I doubled everything else.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. But that meant that my stream has suffered a bit, which meant that on Monday, I played Doom.
Yeah, but that fits the bill with Mayhem Mondays.
I love Doom. I do.
Yeah.
Doom. And then Wednesday we played yet again Miside or Miside or however you say it. It's really, it's wild. It is wild. I'm getting a fondness for this game. And we'll see how that goes, but I'm starting to get a fondness for it. And then on Friday, this is not even... Oh, first of all, I wanted to just read what chat said before I make this last announcement.
Sure.
Pilot said, Eldest Pie was playing Sea of Thieves today, and
nice.
I think it's definitely better with friends. I agree, 100%. I think that's why I don't play Destiny 2 anymore. That's way better with friends. Brent said, of course Pete played the new Yakuza. Of course he did.
This is me we're talking about. Mr. I've bought a full collection of Yakuza.
The best typos. He has them here, and he has them in my chat as well. Now this is a auto-corrected sentence. You are the glue on her face when she sits. It's in the face. What he meant to say, even though that is hilarious.
You see the glee on her face when she sits.
Shoots demons in the face.
Oh, Jesus Christ! There's some serious problems there with that original one.
That's hilarious. I love it. And then, which it's true. I absolutely same thing when I play Hitman. I just love shooting things in the face in the game. FBI. Brent said my week was light on gaming since my mom was visiting. Of course, makes sense. But
look, sometimes I've had light weeks when it comes to gaming. There's no problem with that. Sometimes life gets in the way.
Life can F off. Is what it can do. No, I'm kidding. I'm just a little bit saucy because I am full of tequila right now. But having said that, oh my goodness, this is not a joke. No word of a lie. This is not hyperbole. My chat was there. They saw it themselves. I think I may have played the best DLC I've ever played in my life.
Really?
Yes. And it's Capcom. Resident Evil 7 End of Zoe, I believe is what it's called.
Oh, yeah, I hear really good things about this.
Oh my gosh. I don't read too much about stuff before I play it because I really, really like the organic experience. I said organic. But I don't know if this was a DLC that was like thrown together because, you know, they'll do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mothership Zeta and Fallout 3 DLC.
Wasn't that a pile of crap?
It was horrible. It was awful. Worst DLC I've ever played to this day.
Yeah.
If we're talking playable DLC. Horse Armor is probably the worst DLC ever. But
I mean, it's pretty bad.
It's very bad. It started all of this. Bethesda, why? And we're gonna talk about that too. Bethesda here in a second too. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Anyway, it is charming. It's well acted. Thank you so much, Brent. And yes, Gojo, the lead character, who is Joe, as Brent has said, is hilarious, but not in like, he's not making fun of my people. He is, he's just a really likable guy. And then, first of all, you're a puncher. You're not a shooter. You're a puncher, and you beat people up. I don't usually play that, build on, you know, in games where you can pick your builds. I always play a shooter. So it's rare that I play a puncher. But Pete, he gets, and this is not a spoiler apparently because everybody knew this but me, he gets an electric fist. I almost said fence. He gets an electric fist.
Nice.
At the end, and the music swells, and it's so exciting, and he's just so charming, and he just goes in, he saves the day, and there's no like, oh, this bad thing's gonna happen, or, oh, you know, Capcom, or Resident Evil is known for its twist endings.
Yep.
And although I do know the things that happen after this DLC, obviously because I've played 8.
Sure.
Contained within just that DLC, it's a happy ending, happy people. I just enjoyed it from the beginning to the end, and that right now is probably the best DLC I've ever played.
Nice.
And I enjoyed it. Yes, Kyler said he gets an electric fist. I think I've seen that in a video online. It's a restricted video. I kid you not, there is a robot in Fallout New Vegas, I believe. Yes, New Vegas, my favorite, called Fisto the Roboto. So make of that what you will.
Sure. I think I will.
Yeah. Dagger says, don't want to be a puncher, otherwise you'll be always flat. And then Power said, but it wasn't a he. But I enjoyed that very much. And then on my own, just because I have been away from it, except for in making a long form video since, but I just played me about 2 hours of Hitman, and it was so good. I just love Hitman. Outside of that's my games of the week.
I need to stop doing that. Every time I write down games that you've been playing, when I put Hitman, instead of putting Hitman, I put Hotman.
Oh man, I work for 47. See that? I got my statues.
I know.
I can't reach him. Oh, I love you, 47. I got the baby 47. But
that's even more weird. Now that you want to start touching it.
My baby. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, I do want to say a quick thing. I am looking forward to tomorrow, if things don't technically explode and go wrong as they are wont to do when I'm involved. I'm going to be. I don't like to usually give away what I'm playing, but I am going to be playing Avowed.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I did actually try it out briefly.
Okay, well, so I'm very hesitant because it's an RPG and I'm a shooter. I don't tend to like RPGs. It's very rare. I don't hate them. Don't get me wrong. It's rare. And I do love Skyrim And we know I love Fallout, especially Fallout New Vegas. Well, guess who wrote Fallout New Vegas? Well, the team that has written Avowed, which is Obsidian. And also Outer Worlds, which I also enjoy. So, Avowed may be it for me. Maybe I actually... Here we are, about to go into March. Maybe I have a game that can excite me, that is new, and this year, and all this kind of stuff. Digger says, ooh, gotta get back for that. Yes, because I get scared. I'm scared to be excited. But, I mean, come on, it's Obsidian, man. Yes, Brent says, Game Pass for the win. Digger says, better than Hitman.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Powler says, hot man. Pete could be talking about any of us in chat. It's true. We do have the hottest chat on the planet.
Well, I'm not talking about myself, clearly.
Well, there you go. Brent says you can use a bow or a wand and pretend it's a shooter. I mean, that's...
You can, yeah.
No joke. Brent, in Skyrim, I do fire magic. Because it's akin to shooting, and I understand it. And I call my spell, because you can name your spells, I always call my spell, or weapon if I name it, Burninator. Because I watched, what's-his-face in the early 2000s. The Burninator. What, the email. That guy. But I've drank a lot of tequila, so I can't remember the name of that funny show. So enough of this jibber jabber and flim flam and all the other funny, silly words.
Christ.
What?
Anyway, yeah, sorry. That is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
This flim flam. I haven't heard someone say flim flam in ages.
Well, I've picked up fiddly farting around. I don't know why. I don't know what it means.
You really are Irish now.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. But anyway, this is my cue where I sit back and drink, and Pete talks and says words that you guys like.
Sure.
And then I forget what he says and take a nap.
Good.
Cheers!
Good, because it's another news week.
Whoop whoop!
Not really. I mean, there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on that we can really discuss too much until GTA 6 reveals. Or the Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah.
So there's a few bits of news items that we can discuss this week. So we're going to start off with this. Copyright infringement, because copyright infringement is always fun. Yeah. So Pokemon Company has reached a substantial, in air quotes, settlement with the Chinese operators of Pokemon-like mobile game after they were found guilty of copyright infringement. My God, based on the image that's in the article, it is appallingly bad. It's just an actual rip-off.
Wow. Well, I shall have a Pikachu later.
Someone write that in the chat, please, because I think we need that as the episode title. According to a statement made by the Pokemon Company, this is where I butcher names, so great. Gangzhou Meiki Network Technology and its subsidiary Kyogos Fangchi Network Technology infringe on its copyright with their self-developed mobile game Pocket Monster Remake.
Come on, that's like me making Star Wars and saying asteroid battles.
Oh, I know, yeah. So,
sadness.
All right, thank you, Pylod. I am copying that right now.
Oh, Drunken Kiley strikes again.
Yeah, we need episode titles. It's great. It's fantastic.
Give me more tequilas. I'll name the rest of the shows the rest of the year.
Cool. Well, we don't know until it actually happens live in the moment. It's fine.
Sidekick, you don't know.
So, Pocket Monster Remake originally launched in July of 2015, with the Pokemon Company filing a lawsuit in December 2021, alleging that the game infringed on its copyright and engaged in unfair competition. After the High People's Court of Guangdong Province found in the Pokemon Company's favour and ordered the companies to pay 107 million yuan, $14.7 million in damages. The case went to appeal where a settlement was instead reached. Right.
Okay,
So
microphone come back. That is insane.
yeah. So, whilst the exact settlement has not been disclosed, a joint public apology by Guangzhou Meiki and Kyrgyz Fang Chi said that they had, quote, paid a substantial economic price and incurred significant reputational damage. Under the guidance of relevant precedents and judicial documents issued by the High People's Courts of Guangdong Province, we have deeply realised that our acts had violated relevant laws during the second instance trial and settlement process. Let me just say, sorry. No shit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at the article, my God, like, they have literally ripped models from Pokemon. Like, from the anime, from the games, from everything. It is ridiculous.
Dropped a little trivia in the chat that I did not know that. We're going to say it wrong. Wandong is what used to be called Ken, which, if you know that the majority dialect of Chinese
Cantonese.
is Cantonese.
Yep.
And then Brent says, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Wandong. I know it from a game I reviewed.
Nice.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anyway, I'm not reading any more of that because it's, really?
Yeah, that's insane. Like who like, okay, I was kind of joking about, you know, asteroid battles being,
but,
you know, like,
but it is essentially true.
It's essentially true. Like, who in their right mind would go after such a big property, knowing that the litigation, the liability is what I meant, not litigation.
Mm-hmm.
The liability is really, really big. That's really big.
Yeah.
And not worth it to me, anyway.
I agree.
The risk is not worth the reward.
No. And also, why did it take this long to get to this point?
Now that is very true, because they're usually very, very efficient over there about that stuff.
Let's just say, well, I think I know the reason.
Oh, okay.
Chinese company being sued by a Japanese company in China.
Good point.
Big oof.
Very good point. I do have to laugh at Pylord's comment about Pocket Monster. It would be funny. Okay, why hasn't you're drunk, Kiley's okay. Why hasn't someone made a phone app mobile game called Trouser Snake, and then it's just Snake, but he's trying to, you know, snake the eat the apples, and he's just getting out of a pair of pants. So, and then, Steven said, have you ever seen Turkish Star Wars? No, but I did see the Turkish Spider-Man, which was hilarious. And then Dennis says, and they seem to keep getting away with it. How does he keep getting away with it? And then Pollard says, like normal stars, but with better
Okay, fine. How do you keep getting away with this? How have we not been taken off of Twitch yet?
Because I'm me.
Yeah.
And then Brent says, think any of us will be around when classic video games go into public domain. I've actually thought about that, Brent. To see weird Pac-Man, Jumpman, Donkey Kong, etc. adaptations, which there are, of course, knockoffs.
Oh, there will be
now. But I mean, think about, what is it, the Winnie the Pooh horror movie?
What you mean, Blood and Honey? Oh God.
Which is a great title. We have to admit that's a great title.
Yes, it is, but it's a terrible film.
Why would you, like, what? It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm
very honestly, I highly doubt that Bandai Namco. I'm fully suspecting that Bandai Namco, Nintendo, and all that are not going to allow those licenses to lapse ever.
Now, Pete should, in theory, be old enough to remember this, that I know that I am. Way back, if we take the way back machine into the late 90s, early 2000s, some of you were not even born yet, or even a twinkle in your parents' eye.
That is disgusting to think of.
It is, right? I think my tequila is probably older than some of the people out there. But there was this thing called shareware. And we would either go into IRC chat rooms, or we'd share discs with each other at school, or anything. Anyway, so we did a lot of shareware, which were mostly knockoff games. So, like Pylord saying MacPan, it made me think. There were so many Pac-Man, Tetris,
There's so many
Lemmings,
clones.
so
So
many. And we used to just get away with that, like, back then. And now it just seems weird now that all that homebrew stuff and homegrown stuff and newsgrounds and all that kind of stuff.
Freaking Newgrounds.
I know, I love newgrounds. Yeah, you can't really do that nowadays, and that's very strange to me. Anyway, that's kind of a rant. So I have 1.5 rants to go.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's lower the tone, shall we?
We always do anyway.
No, I meant because someone put it in the chat earlier.
Oh,
Layoffs. No. Yeah.
I want to start a company and just call it Layoffs.
That'd be the worst company ever.
But I'd be in the news all the time. They'd be like, layoffs. Oh, wait. No, that's okay.
No, that's our company. They're actually doing good things. It's fine.
Yeah.
Christ.
Anyway.
Right, anyway, so let's start because there have been 3 notable ones, and I'm going to be honest, one of these I didn't know about until I saw it on Twitter from Nana. So thanks for that. Brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
The first one we're going to talk about is Night School Studios. So Night School Studios are owned by Netflix. So Netflix has laid off numerous staff at Oxenfree developer Night School Studio, according to a new report. So current and former employees, speaking under anonymity to game developer, say an undisclosed number of employees were laid off. According to the sources, the layoffs were announced in January and came as a surprise to the staff. Night School Studio were acquired by Netflix back in 2021, becoming the first game developer to be acquired by the streaming company.
We talked about that on this show.
We did. So
and
for
I was like, this is a bad idea.
Yep. So for a number of years, Netflix made it clear its intention to branch into video games as well as its trademark streaming service. So we all know, obviously, that there have been several games that people have been interested in that have gone exclusively onto Netflix or has had a version on Netflix.
Microphone. So stupid.
Anyway, however, in recent months, it's also been shutting down numerous aspects of the video game art in an attempt to reorganize the interactive side of the business. So in October 2024, it shut down its AAA studio known within the company as Team Blue. They had spent several years acquiring a number of veteran developers, including Overwatch executive producer Chaco Sonny, Joseph Staten from obviously previous Halo fame, the former God of War series art director Raf Grassetti, to join the studio, which was said to be working on an original multi-platform AAA game. So, despite all these actions, Netflix still appears to be committed to including games as part of the service. As of December 2024, it released mobile titles Squid Game Unleashed. Recently announced plans to bring WWE 2K series to mobiles and Netflix exclusive.
If my microphone would ever work, I have so many things to say. Can I say them yet?
Go on.
First of all, this was a bad idea from the start. I did say that. I will go on record and say, go listen to all those shows from back then.
Yes.
But I tried back then to be open-minded because more games.
Mm-hmm.
More games is just a wonderful statement. Although, quality can vary and all that kind of stuff. And also, I do want to agree with Brent. Brent said Oxenfree is amazing. I highly recommend it. So the Netflix experiment has failed. I actually was going to stream Oxenfree about 3 weeks ago, and then I changed it for Miside. But, yes, Steven says, I never, exactly, Pylord. I never knew Netflix got into gaming. It did, but it was so poorly advertised, so poorly marketed, so poorly done. Most people didn't do it. My theory back then, which is my same theory now, what they thought they were going to do. First of all, they thought it was easy money in the bank. It is not. As we know now with the whole, just everything's bottoming out. That's what she said. But I think they thought they would take their original productions, let's say like Squid Games, or I know that they acquired it, but you know what I'm talking about. The IPs that they own, and they'd make games from it, and it would be kind of like a merch thing. except it would be games. And then that blew up in their face because what is any of this? Why did Netflix think that they have the capacity or the ability to get into games? The people that they hired are very talented people, but the people that they hired are people who have written for and created games for already established companies. They aren't PR people. They aren't infrastructure people. They aren't, you know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
They didn't go hire Phil Spencer, that's what they should have hired. Not necessarily Phil Spencer, but a Phil Spencer type.
Someone like that.
Yeah, a Reggie Vizuleme. I would say his name. You know, me. Can you imagine if I got to run a Netflix gaming company? It would be Hitman clones, but it doesn't matter. It would still make money because I'm awesome at making money. But my point being, it was a bad idea to start with. And when you start with a bad idea, you cannot take a bad idea and turn it into a good idea. That's that whole polishing turd thing. I hate that saying, but that whole thing.
Yeah, you can't polish a turd.
Very distasteful. Yeah, it's very distasteful to say that. I don't like saying that. But that's probably because I'm a girl.
Ooh,
but my
because
point,
you're talking about
no, I don't. Yeah. Farts are funny, but I don't want to talk about polishing poop. But my point being, Netflix, it was a bad idea to start with. It's like starting an idea in debt already. It's exactly that same, like, that's like let me think, McDonald's getting into banking. Although I did see Tesco has into banking, and I'm like, Tesco, what are you doing? Tesco,
yeah, but all the major like supermarket providers are all doing some sort of banking. Sainsbury's, M&S.
This is bad. This no. But not my point. My point is more, McDonald's getting into, banking or McDonald's getting into music. You don't know it. Get experts. If you really want to do it, hire experts.
Yeah.
And that. Yeah, exactly. I saw that. Steven says Tesco has mobile phone services too.
Does.
And it's just like, they have a list of everything they do. And I'm like, Tesco, you gotta stop. That's the problem with all these companies. They're diversifying. But they're diversifying with money as the goal.
Yep.
It shouldn't be the goal. You need a customer base. Anyway, I'm not going to go into Finance 101 because that's one of our boringest episodes and nobody watches it. Nobody listens to that one. But, yeah, basically, thanks, Pylord, for that.
Yeah, I didn't really want to know. Thanks.
No, Nana, thank you. Nana actually reminded me. Sorry, I have had a lot of tequila. Nana has actually brought up a point, which is not true. To Netflix. Now, Netflix has never hurt for money. That is actually not true. Netflix has been losing money the last 3 years. They did a dumb thing, and we talked about this before, and I promise I will not bore all of you with this financial crap. But they did a dumb thing, and they bought up, again, a bunch of IPs, and they threw a bunch of money at indie directors. They had a bunch of series developed. They bought, like, Arrested Development. They bought, all these things to carry on. How does Netflix make their money? Subscribers. And if the money they were making by subscribers, because their subscription price was so low, didn't pay for half of the money they had going out. There's no profit. So what they do, they introduced advertising tiers because they effed up so badly. That's how you know companies effed up so badly. As they introduced advertising tiers. So
yeah,
Netflix,
Disney.
They ain't doing great. Disney streaming ain't doing great.
Yeah, Amazon.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, Paramount.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's boring financial crap. But that's half a rant. So we got one more big rant.
Yeah, fine. Anyway, let's go. Next one.
Yes.
So we've got two stories that kind of interlink to each other about one major publisher, let's say.
Right, okay.
NetEase Studios. Hooray.
Who is
so
that?
NetEase own several studios under their banner. They're basically like Embracer, let's say.
Okay.
So numerous NetEase studios, including Quantic Dream, Nagoshi Studios, and Grasshopper, are reportedly at risk of closure after the Chinese publisher decided to divest its international operations. So this is the one that I was saying that Nana brought to my attention on Twitter. So there's another story related to it in a minute as well. So previously known for its popular PC, MMOs and mobile games, NetEase has expanded significantly in recent years, acquiring and establishing studios from industry veterans in Japan, North America and Europe. However, as games industry continues to endure turbulent times, there have been signs that in recent months it could be scaling back its ambition. Last month, it was confirmed NetEase had split from Vancouver-based Worlds Untold, the studio it founded with Mass Effect writers Mac Waters, writer in Mac Waters in 2023, as well as Seattle-based Jar of Sparks, the studio founded in 2022 by Xbox veteran Jerry Hook. Then, earlier in the week, it was confirmed that NetEase had laid off US-based developers behind Marvel Rivals, including its director, despite the game enjoying a hugely successful launch. So there was a lot going around about this one in particular, because they were saying that the whole development studio behind Marvel Rivals got sacked. It wasn't the case. It was just the US side of things that they got rid of.
Do you I know we don't get political on the show, but sometimes I do think there might be a political movement in all of that.
There might be something to do with it. Anyway, a NetEase spokesman denied to VentureBeat that these cuts were part of a broad scaling back of its international game development. However, now GameFile sources claim the publisher is indeed significantly scaling back and is actively shopping around its non-Chinese studios. One of GameFile sources claimed that NetEase plans to divest itself of its majority of its overseas teams, which could lead to the closure of more than a dozen game studios if they can't secure new funding. So that could include Japan-based studios from Like a Dragon designer Toshihiro Nagoshi, Resident Evil producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi, as well as Suda51's Grasshopper manufacturer. NetEase also set up Studio Flare with former Marvelous board member Tashinori Aoki and Blaze Blue series producer Toshimiki Mori, and launched Pinnacle, a new studio led by Dragon Quest 8 and 9's Ryotaro Ishimura. Wow, I'm doing all right with these names today.
I think you've done quite well, Pete.
Yeah. Anyway, in the West, NetEase owns Detroit studio Quantic Dream. If there was anything, no, not saying it. And the new studios from Call of Duty designer David Vonderheer, Control's lead designer, and more, and it is invested in GTA lead Leslie Benzies' Build a Rocket Boy. So a NetEase spokesman declined to comment to GameFile on the supposed cuts, but said that all studios and projects are in constant review and evaluation, and NetEase will determine changes needed to be made throughout the process. So I don't think we really need to go into it, but we can talk about some of the studios that they have under their roster. So NetEase Montreal, Quantic Dream, Grasshopper, Nagoshi Studio, Pinnacle Studio Flare, GP Track 50, Jacaplectic Games, well, I've never heard of them, T-0 Entertainment, Braindead Games, Anchor Point Studios, Skybox Labs, Spliced, Fantastic Pixel Castle, Liquid Swords, and Rebel Wolves. So that most of these studios have had previously industry veterans, let's say. There's been a lot of them as well.
Well, here's my theory, and remember, this is just my opinion. This is not the opinion of Rapid Reviews. But I mean, that's what this show is. The podcast is about opinions. Anyway,
do you want to put a pin in that for a second, because there is another follow up to this.
Oh yes, do that.
Because a few days later, it was confirmed that NetEase-backed studio formed by an ex-Avalanche Studios founder, Christoph Sundberg, has announced it is making a round of layoffs. In a message posted on its website, Sweden-based Liquid Swords said that it was making cuts following a review of its finances in the face of the present challenges of the video game industry. It said that the deeply regrettable changes are intended to ensure the studio's long-term sustainability. Where have we heard that one before?
Yeah.
Almost like it was the same as last week's one. On the week before. And the week before.
Talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So Liquid Swords was established in 2020 by Sunberg,
that makes me giggle.
Who was previously the founder, owner, and creative director at Avalanche, which is best known as the developer of Just Cause. When the indie studio was announced in 2022, it said that it was planning to grow to a 100-strong team in 2023. Its website had also described its debut project as a connected single-player action RPG and a hard-boiled take on the open-world crime genre. So the statements read from the founder. I promised our employees and shareholders access and to build a studio redefining game development with a small, expert-driven team and a sustainable work model. While we achieved much of this, shifting market conditions prevented us from succeeding within our time frame. As a result, we must part ways with talented individuals who have been instrumental in our journey. This is incredibly difficult, but we remain committed to our vision and will continue to work on our IP and first game with dedicated teams.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, okay. Another very quick financial lesson. I'm going to try not to burp into the microphone, but I promise nothing. So, it's well known if you look over history at all. When, if you're a smart investor, if you're a Fartsmeller or a smart feller, you will watch, you will see.
So many episode titles potentially today.
I just mostly enjoy watching your reaction, but no, you'll watch historically when markets get shaky. We'll say that before I go on with this. Rich people, your investors, your money spenders, your blah blah blah, they save their money, they lock it up, and that's what causes recessions and blah blah blah. So, well, there's some factors that are going on here. There's a huge instability currently in the global market, and I'm talking about across the board. I'm not talking about just video games. There's some political instability in America. Let's say that. We'll put that there because that's factual and it's not an opinion. Mm-hmm. Some of their biggest market share is going to be in America. It's not 100%. I mean, America's just it's a big part of their market. Over the next 4 years, there's too much doubt.
Yep.
There's not going to be a lot of extra spending money for Americans. That extra cash, the leisure money, whatever they call it, I forget.
Disposable income.
What Pete just said, disposable income. So, what they're doing, and there's probably a little bit of punitiveness going in here with the whole threats of tariffs and everything, but they're looking at the bigger picture, which is what everyone should do. I wish people would stop looking at the tiny picture and look at the big picture. It's going to be unstable the next 4 years. What's the best thing to do when you're hemorrhaging money? Tie it off before the giant cut in your arm.
Yes.
You're hemorrhaging, tourniquet, that's stuff.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. And I had to self-censor there. So that's what they're doing. That's 100% what they're doing. There might be a little bit of punitiveness in there, but it is forecasting. It's, I see the bigger picture. I know what's about to happen. And yeah, exactly, Brent. I will say this, and we won't give any opinions on it. But Brent does say political instability in America seems like an understatement. We're going to see a huge shift in all globalization in global markets for the next 4 years. That's just one and done. That's just
the world.
That's just how that's going to be. So it's not just going to be video games. The whole entertainment industry is going to be reshuffled and stuff like that. I'm bringing everybody down, and I don't want to keep talking about money because I know that bores people, even though it's one of my favorite subjects. But what else you got in the tank for us, Pete? Will I finish this tequila?
Well, I wanted to ask your opinion about this. Did you want to talk about Xbox or PlayStation?
Well, we know that I love to talk about Xbox, but I like to, get the negative stuff over first. So let's talk about PlayStation.
Is it? Well, some of it's negative. Some of it could be. Because I actually have 3 news stories related to one certain person who was involved at Sony at one point in his career Because a certain Shuhei Yoshida has been on podcasts recently talking a lot. And by a lot, I mean there's 3 articles related to things he's mentioned. So,
I'm curious.
this will be Shuhei heavy. So, I'm just going to read this. I had no choice.
Yep.
And leave it there. Former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida claims he was made to lead PlayStation's new indie initiative because he would have had to leave the company if he hadn't.
Is that a bad translation, or is that really that doesn't make sense?
Well, the popular executive quit Sony last month after 31 years at the company, where he helped launch the original PlayStation and served as its president of SIE Worldwide Studios between 2008 and 2019. In 2019, it was announced that Yoshida had stepped back to work on a new initiative focusing on building relationships with indie developers, with Herman Hulst replacing him as president. In a new interview, Yoshida says he essentially, quote, had no choice but to take the new indies role because the alternative would have been leaving PlayStation altogether. So, Yoshida explained that while he enjoyed his time working with indie developers and will continue to do so that now that he has actually left Sony, it was a role that was essentially forced on him, but one he took regardless because of his love of indie games. So, quote, moving from first party to indies, well, I had no choice, he explained to VentureBeat. When Jim asked me to do the indie job, the choice was to do that or leave the company. But I felt very strongly about the state of PlayStation and indies. I really wanted to do this. I believed I could do something unique for that purpose.
He's talking about Jim Ryan.
He is talking about Jim Ryan.
Who makes every bad decision ever. I'm trying not to be angry.
Anyway, let me finish with the quote. He said, that was the bigger change for me personally, moving from first party to indies, than leaving the company this year. I'm very lucky that the indie community, the publishers and developers I work closely with, they believe that they could use my help. I became an advisor for some of those companies, or for some of these companies, and continue to work with some of the indie publishers and developers I respect. The transition out of Sony to becoming an independent advisor is less of a change than moving out of first party.
Like, if you had if you put on a table in front of Jim Ryan and you said, okay, Jim Ryan, Sony is going to open a restaurant, I was gonna say a music thing, but they already have music. A restaurant, a car place, and a bank. And then you said, here's your candidates. This guy worked at McDonald's for 52 years. This guy, worked at a car place for 75 years and is related to Ford. And this guy has been in banking since he was 2 years old. He would put the banking guy in at the retail food. Mm-hmm. He would put the bank guy or the other guy in the car thing, and he put the other guy in the bank thing. He'd put him in the wrong thing. He's done that repeatedly. And then he's always misjudged the market and then said dumb stuff. Self-censored. I did it. People don't like old games. People don't like playing old games. He has made every misstep you could make, and he just doesn't, he's never been penalized, ever. And I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't get it.
No, I agree with you. Completely agree with you. But the executives at Sony would then turn around and say, well, the PlayStation 4 sold 130 million units, so how can we argue with that?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, you'll hear me very, very, very often say, I was very successful at blah. Well, depends on how you judge success. Because if you judge success purely on number of units sold, okay, except...
he also helped stabilize during the PS3 generation where they had a real bad run of things to start, and then came out with a PS4 and all the marketing for that was kind of genius.
It was bad. No, it wasn't genius. Well,
No,
okay.
What you mean how do you share games on PS4 and that video of them just passing a disc between each genius when Xbox had come out and said you can't game share, you can't do any of that. It's kind of like the same principle as them turning around after Sega Saturn announced a really stupid price and them coming out and going $299 and walked away.
And then walked off the stage.
Yeah.
But at that time, anything would have rescued Sony from the PS3 era. It was a bad era.
Well, you say that.
People disagree.
You say that. It started out really badly, but they still outsold the 360.
Yeah, but
in the end, after several price drops and revisions of units.
Yeah.
It took a lot for them to get to that point, but they did turn it around eventually.
And then once the PS4, I don't care what they say. I don't know. I've never been. I don't know. I don't like that. Something's fishy about it. Let's be honest. Because once so the PS4, it was not a strong seller at the beginning. It kind of ramped up.
It did.
Ramped up. And then the pandemic hit. Then PlayStation 5 came out, and no one could get their hands on it because two reasons: chip shortage, and then obviously pandemic.
Yeah, but you also have to remember how much reserve of PS4s they still had, and the fact that the pandemic was around, and the PS5 was not readily available. People were just going out and buying a PS4 because Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok was still coming out on PS4.
That's why I don't want to give Jim Ryan credit. Yes, I admit there is personal bias there, but also, come on, anyone could have put a monkey there. Yes,
you could have done. I agree.
And it would have still sold. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't. Again, it's how you judge freaking success, and I know they're all about bottom line and numbers and blah 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 blah.
Okay.
I just don't like it.
Right. So, there was another. Anyway, moving on because I think we've said enough about that. I'm going to talk about this one, but then the next story after that, I think I've got a lot of comments I need to make about it. But we'll go to this one first because Shuhei Yoshida, obviously talking again, has discussed Xbox's new multi-platform strategy and described it as a quote win for PlayStation owners.
I agree with that statement. I agree with that before I even know what you're going to say. But,
I know. So speaking during the interview following his exit from PlayStation, the former head of PlayStation was asked about Microsoft's decision to bring Xbox titles to PlayStation. Well, there's a lot of PlayStations in that sentence. Yoshida said that becoming the minority platform, his quote, was his nightmare. As it would have made it difficult to maintain its first-party development. Don't disagree. So, quote, I think it's a win for PlayStation owners. They didn't have access to those games before, he stated on the Sacred Symbols podcast. So, I don't know if you know what Sacred Symbols is. That's the podcast by the ex-IGN editor Colin Moriarty.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, very familiar with him.
I explained in one interview that it was always my nightmare when I was managing first party. I'm lucky it didn't happen. That if PlayStation became the minority platform, it would be impossible to maintain the first party development because the best creators would leave. They are not just creatives, they are business people as well. They want their games to reach the biggest audience. It's very natural if a platform is the minority, and if I was able to release a game on a minority platform only, it's unsustainable. That was the nightmare. Looking at the install base of Xbox hardware, it's kind of natural to understand what they are doing, and it's pretty straightforward. I don't disagree with him at all on this one.
I don't disagree.
No. So I thought I brought this one up because it's another one that seems to be stoking the fans of the flames of the console generation and the war for some reason.
I think that's stupid because everyone wins, which is my favorite strategy. Everyone wins. Why is that a bad thing?
But there was also a bit of a furore around the PlayStation fanboys as well at some point.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
They were also they were saying that this is a great thing. Having Xbox games on PS4, PS5 means they've won. And fine, they probably have to some degree, but I don't care about that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll throw you a party if you won. What?
Yeah, but also okay. they're refusing to acknowledge the fact that them putting Sony putting PC PlayStation 5 and Sony IPs on PC means that they're also a third party platform at this point as well.
Oh god, this is so stupid. Everyone's dumb.
Yeah, they refuse to acknowledge that. If you can go onto Steam and find a listing for Sony Interactive Entertainment,
and you can.
They're a third party publisher at this point as well.
Who cares? Who effing cares?
I know, but I think the Sony fanboys are just utterly ridiculous at times.
The only ones that are more ridiculous than Sony fanboys is Nintendo fanboys.
Disagree. I would disagree with that one because
I really only say that because if every time a Nintendo Direct comes out, they go.
No,
nuts.
I will agree with you on that one. They are quite rabid when it comes to Directs, and they are quite stupid. Yeah, they're quite stupid when it comes to stuff like that as well. No, but I think the fact is that Sony fanboys constantly say stupid things all the time.
No, like back in the day when Twitter was Twitter and not whatever the frick it is now. I don't know. I can't say the ABCs.
Twitter.
But yes, when it was Twitter and it's still now Twitter. Anyway, but when I was on it back in the day, I can only take so much of those daggum Sony fanboys because I'm just like,
they are a joke.
I don't. Oh, don't give me more things. I don't want more things. How dare you give me more things?
But yeah, all the Xbox games are coming over there, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to spend £70 on them or $70 on them, despite the fact I could just go and play them on Game Pass if I didn't have an allegiance to a console.
Oh, it's stupid dummies. And then, of course, as I said back then, as I said last week, and as I'll say forever, the components that are in the PlayStation are made by Microsoft and Microsoft companies. Yes. Yep. Anyway.
Sorry, what?
There's a rant.
I'm trying to think what it is.
I said 3 rants.
Sorry, there's a system that there's a system that's used on what's it? Oh god,
Azure.
No, thank you, Microsoft Azure. It's pretty much used as the online component for everything.
Yep.
I was having a moment. I've also remembered another game that I was playing this week, but I'll talk about that in the after show. I'll talk about it in the after show.
I have ADHD. We can talk about it now. I'd be fine.
No.
And tequila.
No, because I'm getting on to another discussion point. So
my lord called it.
Yeah.
Because I went into a rant. I did.
You kind of did. Anyway, so I might have thoughts about this particular one. So
okay.
We're going to discuss Shuhei again because the third of the three, and I saved this one till last because I think this will annoy me the most. He said that the market became really difficult for Sony Japan studio style games, which contributed to the studio's closure. So he has given several interviews about his time at PlayStation. So, when asked about the closure of Japan studios and fan perception about PlayStation losing its Japanese influence, Yoshida claimed that it was the market that dictated Sony's shift away from Japan studio IP. Quote, during my time, people give me credit, but one of the things I was not successful at was having a successful service game, and the other thing is I was not able to have amazingly successful games made in Japan. Other than Gran Turismo, we had many great products, but didn't really have many AAA level successful products. That became more and more important as the big games became bigger. The indies filled the gap, and the AA market seems to have disappeared. Most of the IPs that Japan Studio had were in that smaller AA sized group, and the market became really difficult for those kinds of games. For example, after Gravity Rush 2, the director, Koichiro Toriyama, tried to come up with the new concept. We were not able to get to greenlight any of his new concepts, even though they were really interesting. So speaking more about Toriyama, he said, "In my mind, I remember his product looked like something the company wouldn't support. The company was looking for AAA titles, and we were struggling to get the game going. So when Japan Studios shut down and he became independent, he was able to create and release Slitterhead."
Yeah.
So he also cites the upcoming Patapon spiritual sequel, Ratatan, as the type of game that Sony wouldn't currently make but continue Japan Studios' legacy. I have to say that he's probably not wrong in this one.
Oh, I don't think he's wrong at all.
No, but this is where my problem is with this, is that
Okay.
this is probably one of the biggest problems that I have with Jim Ryan as a whole when he was managing PlayStation, was that they focused too heavily on the third-person, over-the-shoulder, cinematic, AAA game, and now that has become every single freaking game that they release constantly, even to the point where that Sony State of Play last week that we discussed, where I got very animated about, was because most of the games that are coming out either don't exist this year, or they're third-person, over-the-shoulder, action cinematic games, and it's become rather boring. I'm pissed about Japan Studios because Ape Escape is a freaking great series that should exist. Gravity Rush is brilliant. Knack is Knack, unfortunately, but it's a meme game. But and Nana mentions this. He's not wrong, to be fair. Nobody bought Gravity Rush and games like that. People only bought Astrobot because of the Playroom and nostalgia. I can't disagree, but it shows that people were willing. Yeah, but people were willing to go and buy a game like that because they were craving something different. And all those series that they had in Japan Studios show that they wanted something different. The fact that Astrobot acknowledged two of those series, you know, several of them in terms of the actual bots that you recover, but also the fact that two of the levels were based on Ape Escape and Loco Roco, shows that people are still striving for more diversity of intellectual property from Sony. Not just what the next Naughty Dog game is, the over-the-shoulder cinematic game, the next Marvel game from Insomniac.
I was going to say Insomniac, yeah.
Or the next GT game that can't be played offline because the online DRM components for an offline game, for a single-player game. Like, they had an incredibly diverse portfolio, and this comes off the back of about a month or two ago when Herman Hulst, or whoever it was, said that they didn't have enough IPs. They have frickin' loads of IPs. They just killed all of them. They've got loads. They don't need to constantly be high-budget AAA games. They could clearly be AA games that are just more budget titles for less of a budget and just meant to fuel development for the next AAA game. What was wrong with that when they were first coming up? Nothing.
Well, I think, though, it's inevitable for all of the major developers, not just Sony. There's no way in the next at least 4 years they can continue to make AAA games at the rate and at the budget that have been the previous 3 years.
Yep, I agree.
There's no way. It just won't happen. It can't happen. So they've got to start having a backup, a contingency plan. And there's nothing wrong with, AA games. I think it's dumb to separate everything like that, but we'll go with it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Just get some side-scroller adventures.
No, I'm going to bring up the perfect example for you. It was quite recent as well, and was from a major Xbox studio as well.
Okay, I was going to say Prince of Persia, but yes.
Wrong.
My thing has that.
Obsidian. We've mentioned Obsidian.
Yeah.
They've got several big AAA developed games. They were clearly working on Wilde for quite a long time. But what did they bring out a few years before that? A AA adventure, a AA game.
Text
adventure called Pentiment.
Yep.
And that seemed to do pretty well because people enjoyed it.
Well, for what it was.
There you go.
It's literally a text adventure.
There you go.
a modern text advantage. Well, I say modern, it's set in medieval times. But the point being...
That's my point. It just seems to have done things because people were striving for a smaller, more narrative-driven game. They don't have to all be massive, hard-hitting, $200 to $300 million budget games.
Alright, I'm sleepy now.
I know. That's me done. I just wanted to talk Japan Studios because I'm still pissed about it.
I know.
Well, I was going to talk Xbox, but I think we can't be bothered.
I can't be.
No,
I'm barely hanging on now.
Look, we discussed AI more than enough last week. I don't think we need to delve into that again. So, AI, I've got a new AI model. Great, fantastic. Let's not talk about it. Moving on, end of the show. Let's go.
Yeah. Pete, this has been a great episode.
Yes, I also need to see it in chat before Kylie does her finish of our wrap up. Are we calling this I think I need to Pikachu later, or Smart Fella, or Fartsmeller as the episode title?
And then when I sober up, I'll be like, what? Ooh,
Nana, put a poll up, please.
Brent has redeemed a hydrate. I'm gonna do a tiny bit of tequila.
I've been hydrating all day. I need to pee.
That's what she said.
I could combine them, but I'm not quite sure what hellish mismatch that would be.
That's terrible.
Was
that anyway?
Apparently, Pylord says Pikachu farts.
That doesn't make it's hilarious. I love it, but it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Titles don't.
I will Pikachu later Fartsmeller.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it still doesn't either.
I love it, but it doesn't make sense. But I love it.
I might go with it. Honestly, I might go with it. Sorry, you know what? I'm doing it anyway. There you go, Brent. You win. You win.
This is all in the show anyway, so they'll hear it.
Well, there you go. You win, Brent. Well done.
But our beautiful, fabulous, wonderful listeners out there, what you have missed, you can come check out. Actually, you can check it out on Spotify. The poll is up. Anyway, you can check us out on Spotify, yes, the video, or you can come watch us live. Well, sometimes we're late. We try to be here at 7:30, but it doesn't happen. Anyway, we're live over at twitch.tv/rapid reviews, where you can talk to us and see me get drunk live on camera. I probably shouldn't be saying that out loud.
Yeah, like our lovely chat has been doing all day, so which is why we mentioned them in the audio podcast as well.
We have a fabulous chat. Come be a part of that chat. But Pete, where can they find you outside of this show?
Well, you can find me dealing with social media just about. It's terrible. But if you want to listen to me discuss other things other than video games, the Never Watchers podcast that I do with Kurt Lewin. It's film and TV related podcast where this week we are due to record the Captain America Brave New World episode. We will that should be recorded on Wednesday. We'll probably get that out a few days after, if not by the end of the week. So it should, by the time we record next week, it should be out and ready to go for you to listen to.
Nice.
Other than that, I'm nowhere else. I'm just here. Kill. Kylie, what about you?
Nothing wrong with that. I can be found usually in the bushes outside of your house. So if you
so that's why I had to cut my bushes back.
Pete had to trim his bushes. If you're ever eating dinner and you feel the icy finger of death on your shoulder, it's me. But no, I can actually be found sometimes, maybe not always, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, over on my channel, which is twitch.tv. KILEY_WILDE. It's like a radio station call out number. But Brent says, is that the rustling I keep hearing outside? Yes. But you can find me there. Without fail, 7 p.m. UK time. Sometimes I stream Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays as well. Depends on how I'm feeling. And if I can get dadgum caught up at any point. But you can find my stuff over on the YouTubes. and also on TikTok. I would appreciate any likes, subs, or follows, or anything that you feel you can give. Views are great. They're free. Hopefully I entertain you enough that you keep viewing, but that's debatable. I also always take suggestions from the community, which I get quite a lot, and I love it. I always welcome those. I think that's everywhere. Yeah, because I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on anything. My Instagram's boring. It's just sports. There's nothing. It's my dog. My dog's on there too.
There.
But speaking of which, I just heard him. He's begging outside.
Aww.
But so I've
Good
overstayed
guy.
my welcome. Whatever. But anyway, I think that part is done.
Yes.
As in, the podcast is done now. And
Yes,
we're
it
gonna
is.
leave now.
Congratulations,
thank
we
you.
made it.
Yay! Looks like we made it. But I do thank you so much for joining us. You guys have been amazing. Our chat's been amazing. Oh, that's another thing you can do if you come hang out with us over on twitch.tv/rapid reviews. We do a pre and post show, and you can come hang out and ask us silly questions or serious questions or talk about what you're making for dinner, because I love food.
Yeah.
And hearing about food.
Cool.
But I think that is going to do it for us. So I want to thank you again
Mm-hmm.
and say that we will see you and talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rapid Reviews Radio podcast. You can find the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and various other podcast platforms. You can also find the video version by searching Rapid Reviews on YouTube and watch the podcast recording live on Twitch at twitch.tv/rapidreviews at 7:30 p.m. UK time every Sunday. Please make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at RRRadiopod, and for all the latest reviews, visit www.rapidreviewsuk.com or on Twitter at RapidReviewsUK.